2 weeks on all these methods, okay? If you're absent on Tuesday, just be prepared to take your quiz when you get back, okay? Okay. So, y'all, thanks to everybody that's given these a try. The warm-ups are very important. Sometimes we have some challenge problems on them that are really important, so I appreciate everybody trying. Okay, if one factor of this is 14x squared y cubed, we all immediately, I see that's a monomial. I know this is the greatest common factor method. So I'm going to divide by that. So I'm going to divide by 14x squared y cubed, and I'm going to divide by 14x squared y cubed. Okay, when I do that, I get, in this first slot, I'll get 4x squared. In the last slot, I get minus 3y cubed. So this is the entire factored form right there. They gave you that one, and this is the other factor. So the correct answer was number 1. It's greatest common factor. Okay? Okay, the hard one that you guys are going to kick yourself because it's not that hard. First of all, who can tell me the trick if this leading coefficient is just a 1? Like the shortcut for factoring.
Just do the x, right?
Yeah, y'all, the x is all you need. Okay, so if you kind of did it this way and you put x squared in the front slot and 10 in the back, when you multiply, you get a 10 here. Okay, this is what we don't know. And remember that when you are dealing with that leading coefficient being a 1, y'all, once you get these magic numbers, they just go right in the parentheses. So notice they've already given you one of the magic numbers. One of the magic numbers is 2. So now take a look at this. Y'all, there's not but one number here that the other magic number can be. What can I multiply by 2 to get to 10? Y'all, it's 5. So this other factor is 5. Okay, now here's the problem. Somebody answered 5. I love that, but here's the deal. That's not what they ask you for. Y'all, they ask you for the middle number. Tell me where in this x is the middle number. Where in the x does the middle term go? Y'all, the middle term goes on the bottom. And the middle term is these two added together. The middle term is those two added together. So once you got the 5 to multiply to get to 10, you just add them together. Y'all, B is 7. The correct answer was 7. And the only way this kind of works for you folks is that this leading coefficient is 1, so you're just working out this x is really all you're doing. Okay, that was a challenge. Maybe I'll give y'all another one like that sometime. Yeah. Okay. 4 terms. So what method am I using?
Grouping.
I'm using grouping. Okay. Y'all, I'm just going to do it right here so that I don't waste time writing this out. So greatest common factor here is 4g squared. I set up a parenthesis and divide by 4g squared. When I divide by 4g squared here and here, I end up with 5g plus 6. Okay? Signs here are positive, positive. These signs don't match. Since the signs don't match, what am I pulling out now?
Negative.
Got to pull a negative out now. So greatest common factor here is 3, but I'm going to pull out a negative 3 because these signs don't match these signs. So now when I divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, now in the parentheses my signs are going to match up. Negative divided by negative is a positive 5g. Negative divided by negative is a positive 6. And now when I put these together, My 5G plus 6 is one of my factors. And my 4G squared minus 3 is the other factor. The correct answer was D. Question there? Okay. All right, the back side. Y'all, this was actually very tricky. The reason why it's very tricky is because I tried to trick you. I wanted you to think this was difference of two squares. Because 16 is a perfect square and it breaks down into 4 and 4, x squared is a perfect square. But y'all, 2 is not a perfect square. So a couple of these answers I put up here thinking you would think this is difference of two squares. Okay, but this is actually the greatest common factor method. That's all we got here, folks, is the greatest common factor. Now, what's the greatest common factor? It's 2. So when I divide by 2, I get 8x squared. I'm sorry, I get x squared minus 8. The correct answer was C. This is not dots, y'all, not dots. 2 is not a perfect square. 2 is not a perfect square. Okay? Okay, what you're going to be doing today? It's called factoring completely. It's called factoring completely. You're going to factor and then might have to factor again. So the first thing we ask ourselves always is what? It's up on that flip chart. What do I always want to ask myself? Is there a greatest common factor? Is there? Is there a greatest common factor, folks?
9.
It's not 9. 9 will not go into 87. Go down 1. It's a 3. And it's not P because there's no P in this last term. See how it's a 3. Okay, so I'm going to set up a big parenthesis. And y'all might want to do this with me because this is kind of what your Delta Math is on today.
I am doing it.
Okay. So now when I divide, I get 3p squared. When I divide here, I get a positive 29p. And when I divide here, I get a positive 18. Now, what we were talking about yesterday is now we need to start looking and saying, can I factor this one more time? Y'all, this is a trinomial, and it will factor one more time. It'll factor one more time. So we set up a 2x2 box. 3p squared, 18. When I multiply, I get, I think, 54. What goes in the bottom of the box? Bottom of the x. Middle term, 29. And I need my magic numbers. So y'all, what I did was I went on into, if you look up here, if you look up where my pencil is, I reminded y'all, you can go to y equals in the calculator, put 54 divided by x and go to the table. And I scrolled till I found my magic numbers. My magic numbers are 27 and 2. When I multiply, I get 54. When I add, I get 29. My magic numbers are 27 and 2, and I need p's in those boxes. So now I'm doing greatest common factor. 3p, 2, p, and 9. So I've got 3p and 2. I've got p and 9. Where do I look for my signs? Where should I be looking to see what my signs are? Magic numbers are positive, so I need positive. Now, is this my answer? My complete answer? I left something off. What else has to be there? That 3 that I pulled out. There's actually 3 factors here. There's this factor, and 3. We good? Okay, so the first thing we always ask ourselves is what? This is going to have to come natural, folks. Can I pull out a greatest common factor? You're going to have to ask yourself that first. You might just want to put it right here. Can I pull out A, G, C, F? That's got to be your first question. Can I? Do I have a greatest common factor here? Okay, do we know what it is? Okay, it's 4 and X, because there's an X in all of them, and I picked the lowest power. Now, y'all, something else. Y'all, when this leading coefficient is negative, just pull the negative out with it. Just pull the negative out with it, okay? So we are going to pull the negative 4X out. We're going to set up a parenthesis, and we're going to divide all our terms by our greatest common factor. I'll say again, y'all, when this leading number is negative, just go ahead and pull the negative out. Okay, it's going to make life much easier on you. Okay? This is why. What happens when I divide a negative by a negative? Positive. And what goes in this first slot? 1 what? Okay. Okay, what happens when I divide here? Positive 3x. Okay? And what happens when I divide here? Negative. Everybody's just sitting around waiting on me. 70. Okay. Okay, y'all. Look what happened when I pulled the negative out. X squared became positive. So y'all see, factoring trinomials, we want that x squared to be positive. We don't want to fool with that being negative. That's why when that leading term's negative, just pull it out. Okay? Okay, now, trinomial. I can factor again. Trinomial. I can factor again. Negative, when I multiply, negative 70 goes in the top. What goes in the bottom? Middle term 3. So I need my magic numbers that multiply to 70 but combine to 3. And again, you can go to y equals in your calculator. You can put negative 70 divided by x. And you can go to the table. The reason why I'm writing this is hoping that if you got it on your paper, you'll remember that trick. Yes, it is a positive 10 and a negative 7, because when I multiply, I get negative 70. When I combine, I get 3. Okay. These tell me something else. What are they telling me? These are telling me something about my factored form. One sign in the parentheses is going to be positive. One sign in the parentheses is going to be negative. I already know that. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I already know this. Okay, greatest common factor across the first row is x. Greatest common factor across the second row is 10. Greatest common factor down the first column is x. Greatest common factor down the second column is 7. And when the minus sign shows up twice, what do? I pull this on out, because that tells me where my minus sign is. So we've got x minus 7, x plus 10. And if you put this in as your answer, Delta Math is going to count it wrong. Tell me why. You forgot your greatest common factor from your first method. That is the answer that goes into your... Okay, now, y'all, please understand something. Y'all, if you wrote x minus 7 first and then x plus 10, that is correct. Delta Math is not counting that wrong because you didn't put the parentheses like that. Y'all, Delta Math is going to count you wrong if you've got the wrong sign, if you've got the wrong number, if you've got the wrong sign, if you leave out an X. Y'all, that's when Delta Math is going to count it wrong. Okay, if you have your x minus 7 first and your x plus 10 last, delta math is not going to count that wrong. That is the same thing. Okay? Okay. Next example. Factor completely. I'm already letting you know you're going to be factoring twice. What is the first thing we need to ask ourselves? Can I pull out a greatest common factor? What's my answer here? Y'all killing me. Abigail. It's 2 and something else. It is 2x squared. And I'm going to set up a parenthesis. I'm doing the greatest common factor method. So I'm going to divide by 2x squared. I'm going to divide by 2x squared. What do I get in my parentheses? 25x to the 8th minus 9. We already know in this assignment we got to factor again. What method is this? That is dots. Dots is 2 parentheses, 1 sign plus, 1 sign minus. Tell me how my front term breaks down. Perfect square factors. 5x to the 4th is going to go in the front slots of each parenthesis. Tell me how my last term breaks down. 3 goes in the last slots. If I just put this in my answer box, I'm going to get it wrong. Why? I forgot my 2x squared. Question there. Okay, flip over. I'm making sure I cover everything. Y'all, you already know you're going to factor twice. Do I have a greatest common factor? There's no greatest common factor, y'all. If it's a 1, that's not going to help you any. Okay, so what method is this? This is dots. Difference, perfect square, perfect square. 1 sign plus, 1 sign minus. Tell me how the front term breaks down. 9x to the what? 9x to the 6 goes in the front slots. Tell me how the back term breaks down. 1 times 1 goes in the back slots. The good news is you already know you got to factor again because that's what this assignment is about. Which one of these factors again? The one with the minus. Y'all, this one can't be factored again. What method is that? That's dots. Okay, so y'all, I'm covering up the one that can't be factored again so that it doesn't get in my way. 1 sign plus, 1 sign minus. How do I break this down? 3x to the 3rd in the front slots. What goes in the back? And y'all, do not forget, there was something under my hand here that is still a part of my answer. It is still a factor.